When I was in high school, I was all about basketball. I was starting point guard, I won MVP, and defense was my specialty. At least once a game, I would steal the ball from the other team, dribble down the court, and make an uncontested layup. And the crowd would go wild. And by crowd, I mean my mom, who was this really petite 5'2" Filipina who would be the only person in the audience standing and screaming at the top of her lungs, "Go, Anna! Go, Anna!" That's my mom. And next to her, sitting down and quiet, would be my dad, who was this really calm, cool, and collected Italian-American who'd always be wearing blue jeans and a white t-shirt. And while he was always a little embarrassed to be next to my mom, he was always really proud of his defensive-minded daughter. And in fact, both my parents were always really supportive of my love of basketball. I had been playing since I was 7. So even when I decided to retire the jersey and focus on my studies in college, they were still very much on my side. And while basketball no longer played an everyday aspect of my life, defense still played a really prominent role. And the first instance was when I came out at 18. My dad was actually surprisingly encouraging. "Anna, let me tell you something. Men, and take it from me, suck and are just a bunch of trouble." Thanks, Pops, but you and I both know women come with their fair share of trouble too. Am I right? My mom, who's pretty conservative and Catholic, wasn't quite as supportive at first. You see, she always dreamed of me marrying this prince. And it took years of me defending my dream of finding my future queen until she got on board. My defensive mentality continued to play out when I switched from being a civil engineer major to an ethnic and women's studies major. Not only were they worried about job prospects and me trying to make money in this economy, but I was kind of turning into that radical lesbian feminist that I'm sure every parent wants their once Barbie-obsessed daughter to turn into. So whether it was during family dinners or holiday get-togethers, I always had to defend my identities and my passions in feminism and social justice, until I decided to pursue my PhD in women's studies over at the University of Maryland. And at that point, they were kind of okay with me becoming this academic feminist. So last summer, the summer before I started my PhD program, I decided to quit my day job. I was coaching kids basketball, passing down all my defensive prowess to all the young ballers out there. And I decided to go to Europe for 2 months and have a little fun before I signed my life away completely to grad school. And it was in these 2 months in Europe that I surprisingly began to embody aspects of this defensive high school me that I had thought retired years ago. And it was this defensive high school me that emerged on an almost weekly basis, but on 3 distinct occasions. The first time was in Barcelona. I was walking down this road in the afternoon when a man approaches me, and then he stops about 10 feet in front of me. And I didn't really think anything about it at first. But then he starts to look at me really confused and perplexed. And then he points at me and says, "Hey, China." And before I can do anything, he runs along, and I'm left feeling completely caught off guard, exposed, and I start tearing up a little bit. I was not at all prepared for someone hurling this racial slur at me. But the humiliation quickly wore off, and I was red in the face, furious. How dare this bigot heave that word towards me? And doesn't he know there's more to Asia than China? At that moment, I made a pact with myself that the next time someone said anything like that to me again, I would not only defend my feelings, I'd confront the bastard. Soon after that incident, I make my way across the Mediterranean to Rome. It's a hot, humid day, and I'm starving. And you don't want to mess with me when I'm hungry. I decide to eat. So I'm walking down this really busy restaurant aisle where waiters and waitresses are standing outside their respective restaurants reading the daily specials. One waiter decides to stop me in my tracks, put his sweaty hand on my shoulder, look at me up and down, and say, "Bella, you are the hottest Asian I have ever seen." And in that moment, I was thinking about the pact I had set for myself. Confront this nasty man, Anna. But I don't know if I was just so hungry or if I was just completely caught off guard again. Because I didn't do anything. I broke the pact I had set for myself. And on that entire walk back home to my hostel, I was thinking, Asian, but I'm Italian like he is too. So after Rome, I was fucking pissed. After I watched that guy sweat off my shoulder, I was on hypervigilant mode, ready for anyone to test me. And one time, my defensive mentality was on such a high that I punched a stuck-up French dude on a Paris metro. But that's a different story. I finally make my way to Amsterdam, home of one of the most famous red light districts. And at this point, this is a good 6 weeks into the 8-week trip, so I had enough time on train travel to mentally prepare a thesis to expel into the next person that decided that street harassment was okay. It was dusk. He was on a corner. I was innocently walking to this coffee shop. We make eye contact for a second. I look away, but before I could escape his vision, he decides to politely ask me, "Hey, bitch, you want to be my geisha tonight?" Oh, I was ready for this, y'all. I had mentally prepared a thesis. I was about to become a PhD student in women's studies, where of course I had the skills to articulate how misogynistic it is to interrupt women in public spaces and to verbally harass, objectify, and perpetuate hegemonic notions that women are submissive, solely interested in men, and readily available for consumption. Now, I want to say all of that and more, but in the moment, without thinking, I stopped, I turned around, I looked him dead in the eyes, and I eloquently stated, "Fuck you!" Sure, I had developed this thesis, but sometimes in the moment you gotta trust your gut. I confronted the bastard, and it felt amazing. I still wonder, though, what kind of feminist it makes me if I continue to let some catcallers off the hook. But defense comes in lots of different shapes and sizes. While it felt amazing for me to call out this guy, unfortunately, I still have to defend and protect my own safety in those moments. Who knows what he would have said or done if I would have defended my thesis to him? All I know is that while I no longer play basketball, I still got some fire to my game. Except today the game is women's studies. Thank you.